The quality of your life is directly determined by the amounts of uncertainty that you are able to comfortably live with. So security and the life of your dreams do not exist in the same sentence. Period, full stop, bar none. If you take one thing away from the podcast, coming out the gate, 3 minutes, 59 seconds in, that is what you need to do. If you can just make one small mental shift in your brain, and that would be, I need to become more comfortable with discomfort, you will accomplish everything in your life, right? So I had security, of course. And I was shadowing my vice president of sales, my boss's boss. And I was watching his day, I was watching his week, and I did not like what I saw. I was like, this guy is going on Zoom calls back to back, 15-minute increments. This guy's not seeing his daughters grow up. This guy is not healthy. This guy does not live a lifestyle that I aspire to live. And what do they do when they get you up to that level? I was making $250,000 a year. Up to his point, maybe he was making 350, 400,000, but a lot of it's stock options, right? Because they want to keep you in the company, and they're like a 3-year vest. And everybody that's listening to this podcast knows what vested options are for the most part. And so, yeah, I just was like, if I work really hard over the next 5 years, that's going to be me. So look at your boss's boss, and that's a good way to know if you don't have enough pain yet to make a change, that will give you enough pain. Flip side of that, if you look at your boss's boss and you're like, dude, this is God's gift to freaking corporate. Like, I love this guy's life. Like, then go for it. But I doubt that that's the case if you're listening to the podcast.
Absolutely. So you're sitting there, you don't like the view. You're like, I got to get out of here. What, you pulled the ripcord, you went and traveled the world for 8 months. What was the plan? Like, I think a lot of people, especially if you're in the W-2 world, you're like, I got to have a plan. I got to have a plan. It feels like maybe you didn't have one, but then you formulated one while traveling the world. Fill me in there. Like, what was your first move to being like, okay, I'm in charge. This is my world. This is my life. How do I go make money?
Flip-flop, actually. That is the number one piece of advice that I give to people, is to not do that. Do not do that. do not pass go, collect $200. Actually, there's a joke in that. Somebody said that life is literally like Monopoly. You just pass go and collect your $200 over and over again and just try to stay out of jail. So that's life. And then you die. But no, so for me, it's quite the opposite. So I got this DM the other day from this gentleman, and he goes, I'm 38 years old, comfortable job, highly paid professional, 4-year-old son, wife, mortgage. How do I leave without incurring this massive level of risk, right? So risk is this thing that's always going to exist. You cannot change the amount of risk. You can change your ability to handle the risk and to mitigate the risk. But let's not sugarcoat it. Going from working from somebody else to your own thing, there's a period there where it is quite risky, especially that first year when you don't know what you're doing. There is a few tweaks that you guys can make proactively before you make the jump. Because how many people have we met in a hostel or traveling that just said, oh man, I'm taking a gap year. Oh man, I quit my job, sold everything, got $60,000 in the bank, and now I'm traveling around the world. Cool. Good, not great. Because why? Because they're going to come back to that job. And now they're going to hate it even more because they've had a taste for what freedom is. Don't want to do that. It's like going to a steakhouse and then you have to go back to McDonald's for every single meal after that. And now you know what fine dining tastes like. You don't want to do that. Mm-hmm. So 3 levels of clarity that you begin with. Super important. Cannot skip it. This is the step. Step number 1 is directional clarity. It's directional, sequential, tactical clarity. All roads begin and end with clarity. It's the GPS that you set whereby you know the destination for what the heck you want and where the heck you're going. Directional clarity is the where and the why. We do not start with the how. So important. We start with the where and we start with the why. Where am I going if life was this, if I had won the lottery tomorrow, if I had $100 million in my bank account, I had complete control and autonomy over my schedule, over my life, over my fitness, over my faith, over my family, over my finances. What does my life look like, my dream life, in 3 years? And you write it out as if you're encountering it today. It's not, I will do this. It is, I wake up and I walk out of my balcony in Mykonos. I can feel the heat on the cobblestones as I walk out, and I can see the sun rising over the Adriatic. And I know that I have nothing to do this morning, no one to speak with. I have meetings in the afternoon for my own company that I run virtually anywhere in the world. I truly can do what I want, when I want, with who I want each and every day. Do I know how long I'm going to stay here? No, but I'm enjoying the time that I am. I wrote that down in my cubicle, and I said, this is what my life is going to be in 3 years, right? I wrote that down, and I believe 2020, right in the peak of COVID. And so by 2022, I accomplished it in 2 years. So that's step one, is determine your where, and you write everything down. Step number two is sequential clarity. So directional, sequential. Sequential is how fast? Because the strategies for you to replace $10,000 a month in passive cash flow so you can quit your job and travel the world. How many real estate podcasts have you guys heard that on, right? Every single one of them. So, and that's what most of you guys are. It's just the psychological number, like a 225 bench press, right? So the 10K a month, do you want to do that in 10 years, 5 years, 3 years, 1 year, 3 months? Wildly different strategies for you to accomplish that in a different time frame. So once we're clear on our direction and we're clear on our time frame, that is the equivalent of saying, I am in Atlanta, Georgia, and I want to go to California. I want to go to California today. Therefore, you are not riding a bicycle to California. You are not driving a car to California. You are booking a ticket to an airplane. And most people, you'd be so shocked that they're like, this is what I want in my life. By when? And they're over here riding a little tricycle, like down Route 51, trying to figure out like why they're not making progress towards their goals, right? Once you have your destination and you have how fast you want to get there, then that's when we begin to discuss the tactics, because now we have clarity whereby we can make decisions, because strategy is not what we say yes to. Strategy is what we say no to. So every single yes that you say needs to be justified by 1,000 no's. And the higher that you get up in business, the more each yes has to be justified. So for me, 3 years, I want to travel the world, $20,000 a month, passive income, cash flow, whatever you want to call it. I want to do what I want, when I want, with who I want. Cool. And I know I want to do it in 3 years. Then it gets to a point where I just start checking away at it. I'm like, I'm going to buy real estate. That is how I am going to do it. And so I buy a house a year, which is probably what some people in here are doing. Maybe they're buying a rental property a year. I lived in one bedroom, rented the other bedrooms out. I was making $4,000 a month cash flow from that. Then I hired a mindset coach, and he goes, great job, Brian, but little slow. How could you do this faster? What if you could do it in 6 months? And I go, that is impossible. And he goes, wow, that's a fun word. Let's talk about that. Impossible. And so here, I'll give everyone the same exercise that I had, right? So he goes, so you need $15,000 more, basically, give or take, to hit your goal. And I said, yes, sir. He goes, have other people generated $15,000 a month within 6 months? I go, yes. He goes, have people generated $150,000 within 6 months? I said, yes. So have people done 1.5 million? Yes. $15 million within 6 months. Yeah, dude. Okay. There's some Saudi guy out there that is doing this. Okay. And he goes, cool. So it's not that it's impossible. You just don't think it's possible for you. So that's where we start. And I said, something to think about. And so when I changed my brain from how do I just get this passively from real estate to how do I generate that level of cash flow while traveling around the world, that's where I was introduced to this whole online space. And so I started up my podcast, Action Academy Podcast. I've talked into a mic every single day for 3 years across 41 countries and like 13 different time zones. And I said, I'm going to interview millionaires and ask them how they did it, right? And so eventually when we had that conversation with my coach, the consensus, the outcome was I ended up building a business off of my podcast. And so I was talking about masterminds that I was a member of. I was talking about coaches that I was hiring, that mindset coach in particular. And they were like, Brian, dude, we have people signing up left and right for our services. We want to give you a cut. I go, what do you mean? Why would you pay me? And they're like, no, we want to give you, it's called an affiliate. I said, well, that's interesting. How much is the affiliate? And they say 10%, $10,000 mastermind, $10,000 coach. So all of a sudden, I was making $15,000 within freaking 6 months. I can't explain. And not only has that worked for me, but that has worked for so many other people in so many different ways, shapes, forms, capacities. I'm sure you've had experiences like this before too, where you're so certain and so clear that all of a sudden the way that you get there is nowhere near the way that you planned, but you were so clear on the destination. And that's what I tell people. So directional, sequential, tactical clarity. I can almost guarantee that you will not accomplish it in the way that you think in the very beginning. So I'll pause there.